there is a place where time feels suspended in the breeze, where the air carries a scent of salt, plumeria, and ancient stories whispered through palm fronds. A place where fire meets ocean and history mingles with myth. This is Hawaii, not just a destination, but a feeling that stays with you long after you've left. Here, nature performs on a grand stage. It begins with the earth itself, restless and alive beneath your feet. Hawaii is home to the world's most active volcanoes. Molten rivers shape the islands day by day, carving new coastlines in slow motion, reminding us of the raw, untamed power at the heart of the Pacific. But this land isn't just geologically alive. It's spiritually awake. The islands pulse with mana, a sacred life force that weaves through its mountains, waters, and people. You feel it in the rhythm of a slack key guitar, in the warmth of an aloha spoken not as a greeting, but as a promise of welcome and peace. Long before it became America's 50th state, Hawaii was a sovereign kingdom, the only place in the United States with a royal palace still standing. Walk its halls, and you'll hear echoes of Queen Liliuokalani, whose voice and legacy endure like the surf upon the shore. When Captain James Cook arrived in 1778, he named the islands the Sandwich Islands. But he could not understand the soul of this place. It was in 1898 that Hawaii was annexed by the United States, and in 1900 it became a territory. Then, in 1959, it joined the Union, not as a land conquered, but as a culture that continues to shape America's identity from its edges. There are 8 major islands in Hawaii, but 4 have become the most cherished by travelers: Oahu, Kauai, Maui, and the Big Island. Each has its own rhythm, its own spirit, and to truly know Hawaii, you must listen to them all. Let's begin with the Big Island, the island of Hawaii itself. It's a land of elemental contrasts. To the west, Kona rolls in golden warmth, its coffee plantations stretching toward the sea, each being kissed by the sun and shaped by volcanic soil. To the east, Hilo whispers in rain-soaked green, where mist hangs low over Akaka Falls and orchids bloom in wild abundance. And in the south, the earth breathes fire. Volcanoes National Park reveals the heartbeat of creation, where lava sculpts the land in real time and silence feels sacred. Then there is Kauai, the Garden Isle. This is Hawaii untouched. Its jungles pulse with life, and its cliffs drop like curtains into an endless blue. Here, the Mount Pali coast unfolds like a dream, only fully understood from the sky. Helicopter blades hum above ridges, painted in every shade of green and red, carved by wind and rain into sacred cathedrals. Waialeo, one of the wettest places on earth, fuels waterfalls like threads of silver pouring down ancient cliffs. Waimea Canyon, the Grand Canyon of the Pacific, glows in hues of rust and emerald, a monument not just to erosion but to time itself. Take a boat ride through forgotten veins of an old sugarcane ditch, and you'll find yourself drifting through history, through stillness. Oahu is the beating heart, the meeting place of past and present. Here, over 5 million visitors each year come not just for the beaches, but for the story. At Pearl Harbor, silence speaks louder than words. The Bishop Museum holds the soul of a people. And yet, just beyond the somber, Waikiki dances in neon and surf, where the sunset paints the sky with aloha and the nights pulse with life. Hike to the top of Diamond Head before dawn and feel the island awaken beneath your feet. Stroll the sands, dine beneath starlight, sail into twilight on a catamaran, where the sea cradles the horizon like a lullaby. And then there is Maui, the island of contrast and comfort. If Oahu is energy and Kauai is peace, Maui is balance. Here, over 2 million visitors come to find their in-between. At Halakala, the world sleeps under a blanket of stars, And when the sun rises above the crater, it's as though the sky opens a window to another world. They call it Mars, but it feels more like heaven. Maui's west side glistens with sophistication. From Wailea's serene coves to Kanapali's golden sands and the resorts of Kapalua, luxury finds its sanctuary in nature. World-class golf courses trace coastlines. Restaurants serve the sea on silver. But it's not all elegance, it's resilience too. In 2023, wildfires swept through the historic town of Lahaina, leaving behind ashes and aching hearts. But the soul of Maui was never lost. It lives in every lei strung in remembrance, in every canoe returning to sea, in every visitor who chooses to return, not just a vacation, but to support healing. So, which island calls to you? The laid-back rhythm of Kauai, the stylish hum of Oahu, the primal beauty of the Big Island, or the breathtaking harmony of Maui? Each one is a chapter in a story older than any map. And no matter where you go, Hawaii doesn't just show you its beauty. It invites you to feel it, to breathe it, to remember that paradise is not just a place, but a presence, a way of being. Aloha. There's a place in America where the sky seems wider, the stars closer, and time slower. A place where enchantment isn't just a promise, it's a feeling. This is New Mexico, a land suspended between worlds. Its deserts hum with mystery. Red earth whispers stories older than memory. Towering mesas and jagged mountain ranges rise from an endless horizon, painting a landscape that feels more dream than geography. This is the Southwest, elemental and eternal. New Mexico's villages, crafted from clay and sun, shaped by centuries, are not replicas of the past. They are the past, still alive. Here, adobe walls hold generations of prayers, laughter, and storm-worn silence. Step into a plaza in Santa Fe or Taos, and you're stepping across centuries. Nearly half the population here is Hispanic or Latino. The result is a rich cultural fabric that blurs the line between American and Mexican, indigenous and colonial. Spanish mingles with English in everyday speech. Traditions collide and coexist in music, cuisine, and art. It doesn't just feel like a different country. It feels like a different rhythm of life. Despite being the fifth largest state, New Mexico has one of the smallest populations, just 2 million people spread across vast, untamed spaces. That solitude, it's sacred. It allows the land to breathe and the stories to echo. And what stories they are. New Mexico is full of the fantastical and the forgotten, from ancient Pueblo settlements to alien crash sites. It's the Wild West with a cosmic twist. UFOs over Roswell. Saloons along Route 66. Rocket launches in the desert. Past and future share the same dust here. Then there's the flavor. If you've never tasted a New Mexican chili, green, red, or the local favorite, Christmas, you've never really tasted the soul of this state. Here, chili isn't just a topping. It's a ritual, a rite of passage, a declaration of identity. From burritos to burgers, enchiladas to eggs, the heat is part of the heritage. Journey north and you'll find Taos, a high desert haven where Native American traditions run deep. The Taos Pueblo, a living community and UNESCO World Heritage Site, has stood for over 1,000 years. Clay homes, ancient customs, and a spirit rooted in the sacred land. From there, follow the road west and fall into the rhythm of old Route 66, dotted with roadside diners, neon signs, and crumbling Americana. In towns like Gallup and Tucumcari, nostalgia clings to the wind like dust. It's the heartbeat of a bygone era still pulsing. Santa Fe, the capital, is an art lover's sanctuary. The streets glow with color. Studios and galleries spill from every corner, their walls alive with native, Spanish, and contemporary visions. The city itself is a masterpiece, built in the Pueblo Revival style, glowing tan under the desert sun. In October, the skies over Albuquerque explode with color. The International Balloon Fiesta turns a desert into a dreamscape. Hundreds of hot air balloons drifting silently through the dawn light. It's not just a festival. It's a floating celebration of wonder. Then there's White Sands, a surreal sea of glittering white gypsum, 73,000 acres of sculpted dunes. You walk across it, and it feels like snow, but warmer, softer, quieter. It's one of Earth's most otherworldly places, right here in southern New Mexico. Beneath the ground lies another marvel, Carlsbad Caverns. Over 100 caves stretch deep into the earth, their walls dripping with ancient stone, their silence echoing eternity. It's a subterranean cathedral of time and transformation. New Mexico is not a place you pass through. It's a place you absorb. It's not about where you go. It's about how it makes you feel. This is a land of enchantment, and it earns a name every single day. Utah is more than a destination on the map. It's a masterpiece carved from time itself. It belongs to the American West, yes, but it also belongs to something older, deeper, a place where deserts speak in silence, mountains echo the prayers of ancient people, and the light itself feels sacred. Known as the crossroads of the West, Utah doesn't just sit at the center of the region. It connects it spiritually, geographically, and culturally. Here, every direction leads to awe. The state's centrality has long shaped the prosperity of the Wasatch Front. Utah's thriving heartland and the epicenter of life, commerce, and culture. Salt Lake City, its capital and crown jewel, rises like a modern oasis backed by the mighty Wasatch Mountains. But this city is more than skyscrapers and tech startups. Its foundations are spiritual. A refuge founded by pioneers fleeing persecution, now a metropolis with global reach. The Salt Lake Empire, a term used to describe the city's far-reaching influence, extends far beyond Utah, casting a quiet but undeniable shadow into Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, Arizona, and even parts of Colorado and New Mexico. Yet, Utah's essence cannot be measured by borders or economics alone. To truly understand the state, you must step into its wilderness. Utah is shaped by wind, water, and time, forces that turn stone into sculpture, desert into dreamscape. Among its crown jewels stands Monument Valley Navajo Tribal Park. Rising from the red sands like ancient monoliths, these towering sandstone buttes, some over 1,000 feet tall, form one of the most iconic vistas in the world. But photographs cannot capture the spirit of the land. This is sacred ground. Every curve of rock tells a story whispered through centuries of wind and ceremony. The valley doesn't shout, it waits, quietly, until you are ready to listen. And then there's Temple Square in Salt Lake City, a place of quiet reverence and architectural grandeur. It is the symbolic heart of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Here, within its 35 acres, history unfolds in stone and stained glass, in hymns and heritage. The tabernacle's acoustics are legendary, its gardens blooming with color and care. It's not only a spiritual site, it's a living testament to perseverance, belief, and community. A short drive north brings you to the surreal beauty of Antelope Island, surrounded by the Great Salt Lake's shimmering waters. Wild bison roam free across salt-crusted plains, while sunsets blaze across wide skies in hues of orange, gold, and violet. The lake itself, salty and still, feels more like a mirror of the heavens than a body of water. It reflects not only light but silence, deep, vast, and eternal. Head south, and Utah begins to unfold in layers of grandeur. At Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, over 1.2 million acres of desert, water, and rock form an adventurous playground. At the heart of it lies Lake Powell, a serpentine reservoir that snakes through steep red canyons, both through slot canyons, so narrow the sunlight barely touches the water, camp beneath towering rock walls carved by time into cathedral-like shapes. Here, the sky is enormous, the silence is humbling, and every ripple tells a story. Further down the road lies Moab, a town small in size but infinite in spirit. It is Utah's adventure capital, nestled between Arches and Canyonlands National Parks, and just a stone's throw from Dead Horse Point. Red rock spires pierce the sky. Fossil dunes roll like petrified waves. Bikers, climbers, hikers, and dreamers converge in this desert town to chase the horizon, and often find themselves in the process. Arches National Park offers over 2,000 natural stone arches, delicate, improbable structures shaped over millions of years. At sunrise, the light hits the red rock just right, turning the entire landscape into a sculptured garden lit by fire. Canyonlands, on the other hand, feels infinite, a labyrinth of canyons, mesas, and ancient riverbeds stretching beyond sight. Stand at the edge and feel how small you are and how free. But Utah's wonders don't end when the snow falls. They only begin. In winter, This red rock state transforms into a snow-covered kingdom. Skiers from around the world flock to its world-renowned resorts: Alta, Snowbird, Brighton, and Deer Valley, where the snow is famously dry and fluffy, earning the nickname the greatest snow on Earth. Unlike the glitz of Colorado or the crowds of Tahoe, Utah's slopes offer raw alpine beauty with unmatched accessibility and soul. Yet perhaps Utah's greatest gift is not one single place, but its paradoxes, the way it balances sacred and wild, solitude and community, tradition and adventure. From the soaring sandstone temples of Zion to the surreal hoodoos of Bryce Canyon, from the rugged cliffs of Capitol Reef to the winding gorges of Canyonlands, this state is a symphony in stone. The air in Utah smells of juniper and sagebrush. The wind carries stories older than memory, and even the silence here seems to speak. It's a place where you don't just visit nature. You belong to it, even if only for a moment, because Utah isn't just a chapter in a travel guide. It's a place that rearranges your sense of scale, a place that opens you up. It's not just a state in the western U.S., it's a state of mind. Wyoming entered the Union in 1890, adding nearly 98,000 square miles of untamed wilderness to the tapestry of the United States. But Wyoming is not just land, it's legend, a place where horizons never end, where the wind sings through valleys and where silence is measured in miles. It is a region of great and beautiful song, a symphony of snow-capped peaks, sun-scorched plains, and sacred stone. Historically, Wyoming was a rugged battleground, an untamed frontier where cattle ranchers clashed in open warfare with sheep herders over grazing rights. These were fierce times, defined by grit, isolation, and raw survival. Yet even then, there was poetry in the dust. Today, that wildness is softened, but it hasn't disappeared. Modern Wyoming may be peaceful, but it still pulses with the primal heartbeat of the Old West. Its waters teem with trout, its skies fill with eagles, and its lands remain wide, wild, and wonderfully free. Despite being the 10th largest state by area, Wyoming is the least populous in the country. Just under 600,000 people live here, meaning there is room to think, to breathe, to wander, room to escape the noise of the world. In Wyoming, you don't visit nature, you vanish into it. They call it the equality state, not just because it's the first state to grant women the right to vote and hold office, though it did in 1869, but because Wyoming has always dared to do things differently. Its motto, equal rights, still echoes through its rugged towns and wide open roads. Here, independence is an idea, it's a lifestyle. Nowhere does Wyoming's grandeur rise more suddenly, more dramatically than at Devil's Tower, this ancient volcanic neck. Standing 1,267 feet above the plains, is the eroded heart of a once mighty mountain. Its vertical columns stretch skyward like organ pipes frozen in stone. Sacred to Native American tribes and mystifying geologists, Devil's Tower was the very first national monument, declared by President Theodore Roosevelt in 1906. It remains a symbol of awe, stark, solitary, and unforgettable. But there's more to this land than monumental rock. In the northwest, nestled near the Wyoming-Idaho border, lies the Valley of Jackson Hole, once a haven for fur trappers seeking beaver pelts. Today it's a year-round sanctuary for adventure seekers, artists, and those in search of alpine solitude. Surrounded by the jagged teeth of the Teton Range, Jackson Hole is defined by its seasons. In summer, it's a playground of emerald meadows, mountain trails, and thundering rivers. Rafting the Snake River through narrow canyons is both exhilarating and meditative, as bald eagles soar overhead and the current pulls you into the wild heart of the land. In winter, the snow transforms everything. Over 500 inches fall each year, turning Jackson Hole into a white wonderland. The ski resort here is among the best in the country, not because it's flashy, but because it's fierce. Steep runs, deep powder, and a deep-rooted culture of alpine passion draw skiers and snowboarders from around the globe. Just beyond Jackson lies Grand Teton National Park, established in 1929, and arguably one of the most visually striking parks in America. Towering peaks rise abruptly from the valley floor, their granite spires piercing the sky. At their base lie hidden alpine lakes, clear and still like forgotten mirrors. This is a park where elk bugle through misty dawns, where moose browse in willow-lined marshes, and where bears quietly roam the forest, always just out of sight. And then there is Yellowstone, the first national park in the world, the crown jewel of American wilderness. Established in 1872, Yellowstone is not just a park. It's a geological miracle, a volcanic caldera stretching over 3,400 square miles, filled with thermal marvels and primal wonder. Boiling water bubbles from beneath the earth, sending steam into the crisp mountain air. Geysers erupt in defiance of gravity, spraying hot water high above the landscape. Old Faithful, yes, but also hundreds of lesser known. equally mesmerizing geysers waiting quietly for their moment. Rivers born of heat and ice cut through canyons and crash down in roaring waterfalls. The colors of grand prismatic spring, vivid blue, radiant orange, deep emerald, seem painted by gods. This is a land where time itself feels unstable, where the earth breathes, hisses, and whispers a power far older than we can comprehend. Beyond the grandeur, Wyoming also offers hidden gems like the Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area. Created by the Yellowtail Dam in the 1960s, this massive canyon winds its way across the Wyoming-Montana border. Towering cliffs, calm waters, and rugged bluffs offer a quieter, lesser-known alternative to the state's more famous landmarks. It's a place for reflection, for boating, for quiet wonder. But Wyoming isn't only about landscapes. It's about spirit. It's in the cowboys still riding fence lines on working ranches, in the windmills slowly turning on the prairie, in the old mining towns with weathered saloons and stories too wild to be fiction. It's in the stars overhead, clearer and closer than almost anywhere else in the country. And it's in the people, independent, resilient, grounded, whether they live in a log cabin miles from town or in a small city like Cheyenne or Laramie. Wyomingites share a fierce love of the land. They don't need much, but they need the open sky. Wyoming doesn't dazzle you with spectacle. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply exists in all its rugged grace and waits for you to discover it. Because the true beauty of Wyoming isn't just what you see, it's what you feel. It's a return to something ancient and real. A reminder that there is still a place in this world where the wild runs free and where the land asks nothing of you but respect. This is Wyoming. quiet legend of the plains. There's a certain silence that drapes the prairies of North Dakota. It's not an absence of sound, but presence. The soft rustle of the wind through tall grass. The distant cry of a hawk circling overhead. The echo of footsteps from those who came before. This land remembers. It remembers Lewis and Clark, pushing westward into an unknown world, guided by the steady hand of Sakakawea, a woman of wisdom, barely 17, yet already the soul of resilience. It remembers Sitting Bull, who stood defiant in the face of broken promises, who carried the spirit of his people like fire in winter. And it remembers Custer, whose fate was sealed not far from here. Reminders that every inch of this land has been lived, loved, and fought for. The name North Dakota comes from the Dakota Sioux, whose ancestral homeland stretched far and wide across the northern plains. Here, long before maps were drawn, tribes hunted bison, fished sacred rivers, and cultivated the soil. They built communities not with walls, but with relationships to land, to spirit, to one another. With the 18th century came change. Steamboats climbed the Missouri River, carrying fur traders and missionaries, dreamers and opportunists. Trading posts sprang up like wildflowers, temporary outposts of civilization carved into an eternal wilderness. What followed was the slow transformation of a frontier. The fur trade gave way to homesteads. The native grasses made room for wheat fields. Settlers, many of them Scandinavian and German immigrants, arrived with only hope and determination, facing brutal winters and backbreaking work. But they stayed, planted roots deep in soil that was generous and unforgiving in equal measure. Today, North Dakota remains a land shaped by both nature and perseverance. It is one of the least populous states in America, but don't mistake that for emptiness. In fact, its vast openness is its strength. From the air, it looks like a living mosaic, rich black earth freshly plowed, a bright patchwork of young green crops, and golden seas of grain whispering in the wind. This is big sky country, where clouds roll like ocean waves, and sunsets stretch beyond imagination. It is beautiful in a way that is difficult to capture, not flashy but eternal. But nature here can be harsh. Blizzards howl across the flatlands. Floods rise with little warning. Droughts parch the soil and test the will. And still, the people endure. Farmers tend their land with reverence. Ranchers ride their herds as their ancestors did. There's a quiet pride here, not loud, but unshakable. North Dakota's wild places are sanctuaries for the soul. From the thick forests in the northeast to the wetland havens near the Canadian border, there is room to wander, to breathe, to connect. And then there's Theodore Roosevelt National Park, where jagged buttes meet wide grasslands, where wild horses run free and the sky seems impossibly vast. It was here that the future president found solace after the loss of his wife and mother. It was this very land that shaped his vision for conservation. You can feel that legacy in every breeze, every painted cliff, every elk cry at dawn. The human spirit lives on in its cities, too. Fargo, once a frontier outpost born of the railroad, has evolved into a vibrant center of culture and innovation. Its roots may be old, but its heartbeat is young, alive with music, food, art, and energy. And then there's Bismarck, the capital on the banks of the Missouri River, chosen for its central location during the territorial days. It has grown into a symbol of North Dakota's balance between past and present. Government, business, education, and healthcare all converge here, surrounded by the quiet strength of prairie life. But to truly understand North Dakota, you have to leave the highways behind. You have to walk its trails, hear the stories whispered by the cottonwoods, Feel the earth that once fed buffalo herds, so vast they seemed endless. You have to look with stillness, listen with reverence. And remember, this isn't just a place you visit. It's a place that stays with you. North Dakota doesn't boast. It doesn't need to, because in its quiet beauty and enduring spirit, it speaks louder than words ever could. South Dakota, where stone speaks and silence echoes. This is a place where time moves differently, where winds whisper across grasslands that stretch farther than the eye can see, where ancient rock formations seem to carry memory, where rivers don't just flow, they tell stories. Welcome to South Dakota, a land shaped by elemental force, sacred belief, and human determination. It began with the land, a vast expanse folded into the United States in 1803 as part of the Louisiana Purchase. But long before any treaty, this ground held meaning. For the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota peoples, this wasn't just a place to survive, it was a place to belong. A land of spirits and ancestors, buffalo and ceremony. After the Lewis and Clark expedition passed through in 1804, a permanent American presence was established at Fort Pierre. But this wasn't the beginning. It was merely another chapter in a story already thousands of years old. South Dakota joined the Union on November 2nd, 1889, a twin birth with its northern counterpart. But unlike the noise and clamor that often comes with growth, South Dakota matured quietly with grit and grace. Nicknamed the land of infinite variety, its diversity isn't just found in its people or history, but in its terrain, its skies, its moods. From rolling plains to jagged spires, from deep canyons to quiet lakes, it's a geography of contrast and wonder. And at its heart, the Black Hills, here stands a Crazy Horse Memorial, a sculpture as defiant as the man it honors. Crazy Horse, the Lakota warrior who never signed a treaty, who led his people in defense of their sacred lands, who resisted until the very end. The monument, still unfinished, is carved from Thunderhead Mountain, and in its unfinished state, it tells the most powerful truth of all. Some stories are too great to be contained by stone. Just miles away, Mount Rushmore rises, another symbol, this one honoring four presidents. Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, Lincoln. Together, they gaze out over the Black Hills, etched into granite by ambition and artistry. But South Dakota is more than monuments. It's alive in Custer State Park. You'll find one of the largest publicly owned bison herds in the world. Nearly 1,400 of them roam free. Majestic, powerful, unbothered. Alongside them, elk slip through the forest. Mountain goats cling to rocky cliffs. And coyotes sing under the stars. There's magic here, in the stillness of Sylvan Lake, where mirror-like waters reflect towering stone. A place so peaceful it's become a favorite for weddings and quiet reflection alike. And then there's the Badlands. They call it the land of stone and light. A maze of ancient peaks, fossil-laced hills, sunlit pinnacles, and endless canyons, formed not over centuries, but over 75 million years. Older than the Grand Canyon, harsher, wilder, but no less breathtaking. Spearfish Canyon offers a softer kind of wonder, carved by water, framed by towering limestone walls. It's a place where nature feels close, almost intimate. Waterfalls like Rough Lock and Spearfish Falls tumble gracefully through forested cliffs, creating a sense of serenity few places can match. In Sioux Falls, the state's largest city, modern life flows alongside nature's rhythm. And at the heart of it lies Falls Park, 128 acres of riverside wonder. Here, the Big Sioux River pours over 3 levels of ancient pink quartzite, a place where people gather, linger, and listen. But South Dakota's roads are stories too. Take the Needles Highway, a drive through impossibly narrow tunnels, carved between needle-sharp granite spires. Every curve, every turn, feels like a step back in time, into a world not built, but revealed. This is a state that doesn't rush to impress. It unfolds slowly, like a story passed down across generations. There's a sacred stillness here, a dignity in its landscapes, a poetry in its silence. Because South Dakota is more than a destination. It's a memory waiting to be made, a whisper of the past, and a promise that nature, heritage, and spirit still endure. Nebraska, to many, it was once just a place to pass through, a gateway to the West, where settlers, dreamers, and fortune seekers trudged onward in search of gold, land, or simply a new beginning. But stop here, take a moment to breathe in the wind and feel the earth beneath your feet, and you'll see it's so much more than a waypoint. It's a living museum of the American spirit. In the early 1800s, caravans of hopeful pioneers rumbled through these prairies, guided by instinct and a hunger for opportunity. Nebraska was a corridor for thousands chasing something better. But the land had its own voice, quiet, steady, waiting for the world to recognize its value. This is where the Great Migration westward left some of its deepest footprints. You can almost hear the echoes of wagon wheels, feel the tension in the air as rivers were forded, and imagine the warmth of campfires under a blanket of stars. And when the sun sets over the tall grass dunes, its orange light kissing the endless plains, it's easy to understand why they stayed, why this land became home. Nebraska is the birthplace of rodeo, and its cultural roots run deep. Every small town, every field, carries a trace of the old frontier, a story passed down from those who weathered dust storms and droughts, who turned open prairie into legacy. But Nebraska's beauty isn't just in its past. It's in the way that past still breathes today. Modern life here doesn't erase history. It builds on it. Take a farm tour, and you'll see how families live in harmony with the land. Sit down to a farm-to-table dinner, surrounded by vast skies and open hearts, and you'll feel the rare kind of peace that only places like this can offer. These aren't just locals. They're neighbors, and before long, they'll feel like friends. Then, towering above the prairie, stands Chimney Rock, an icon of the American West. Rising 480 feet above the valley floor, it was a guiding beacon for weary travelers along the Oregon Trail, a natural monument to resilience and direction. To see Chimney Rock is to stand in the same spot as thousands who came before you, hopeful, tired, determined. Just west of there is North Platte, home to Buffalo Bill and a legacy of Wild West lore. Today, it's a lively town with a big heart, offering fun festivals and a tangible link to the days of cowboys and showmen. And then there's Omaha, founded in 1854. It's a city that pulses with youthful energy, yet still honors its roots. Walk through its old market district or along the riverfront, and you'll feel the heartbeat of a place always reinventing itself. Lincoln, Nebraska's capital, is equally compelling. More than a government seat, it's a center for arts, innovation, education, and Midwestern charm. Home to vibrant murals, historic architecture, and a deep sense of community, Lincoln stands quietly proud, like Nebraska itself. But beyond the cities lie treasures of a different kind. Winding scenic byways, ghost towns lost to time, quirky roadside attractions that turn a simple drive into a journey of discovery. Because that's what Nebraska is, a state you don't just visit. You feel it in the wind that rustles through the corn, in the golden light of a prairie sunset, in the silence that speaks louder than any city noise. Whether it's history, hospitality, or sheer open space you crave, Nebraska welcomes you, not with flash, but with authenticity, not with spectacle, but with soul. And once you've stepped into its story, you might just find you never want to leave. Kansas, its name drawn from the Siouan word Kansa, the people of the south wind, is a poetic hint at what lies ahead. This is a land shaped by nature's breath and time's quiet hand. Set amid the western-facing expanse of the Great Plains, Kansas is both ancient and enduring, both overlooked and unforgettable. On January 29, 1861, Kansas became the 34th star on the American flag. But long before that, it was a cradle of movement, of native tribes, of pioneers, of wind carving stories into the prairie. For many, Kansas is the very heart of America, not just geographically, but spiritually. About 90% of the state's vast land is still used for agriculture. Golden wheat sways across endless fields like waves in an ocean of earth. It's no wonder they call this the nation's breadbasket. And yet, Kansas offers far more than harvests. This is a place where the Old West still whispers through towns and trails, where cowboy culture hasn't been packaged for display. It's alive, real, rugged. Home on the range isn't just a state song. It's a feeling, and here you can live it. Staying at working ranches, from rustic hideaways to luxurious western lodges under sweeping skies. At night, with stars overhead and only the wind for company, you'll feel something rare: stillness. Kansas is deeply rooted in Native American history. Across the state, museums and heritage sites honor the tribes who lived and thrived here long before settlers arrived. These aren't just stories. They're reminders of a deeper connection to land, spirit, and survival. Venture out, and you'll discover a prairie landscape so vast and untouched, it feels like walking through a dream. No traffic, no rush, just you, the open road, and the horizon. 12 scenic byways lace through the state, each one revealing a different chapter. The Flint Hills Scenic Byway winds through the largest remaining tall grass prairie on Earth. Here, wild bison still roam, just as they did centuries ago. It's not a zoo. It's a return to the way things once were. And then, like a mirage in the plains, rise the monument rocks of Gove County. Towering up to 70 feet, these chalk formations are fossil-rich relics from the Cretaceous period, formed over 80 million years ago when Kansas was part of a vast inland sea. They stand like stone ghosts, silent and awe-inspiring, whispering of a time when the plains were ocean floor. Nearby, you'll find other geological wonders, canyons, hoodoos, natural bridges, hidden gems that few venture to see. Each one holds a story in stone, written long before humans took notice. But Kansas is not only nature, it's also history and heritage. Dodge City, located in the Southwest, is where the Wild West lives on. Visit the Boot Hill Museum, and you'll be transported to a time of outlaws and lawmen, gunfights and grit. Walk the recreated Main Street, watch a stage shootout, and explore Fort Dodge, once a frontier military post turned state prison. It's not kitsch, it's preservation. In the state capital, Topeka, you'll find a different kind of power. The domed state capitol building is a neoclassical masterpiece filled with murals and sculptures. Here, politics and artistry meet beneath a soaring rotunda. Then there's Wichita, the largest city in Kansas, known as the aviation capital of the world. For over a century, it's been a hub of aircraft innovation, with major companies designing and building planes that touch the sky. But Wichita is also full of life on the ground, museums, riverside parks, and a vibrant cultural scene. And through it all, Kansas lives its seasons fully. Spring brings wildflowers and warm breezes. Summer delivers sun-soaked festivals and farmers' markets. Fall wraps the fields in gold and amber. And winter paints the prairie in stillness and frost. Each season offers a different way to fall in love with the land. Kansas doesn't shout to get your attention. It doesn't chase trends or seek approval. It simply is timeless, grounded, quietly powerful. Come here, and you'll see that beauty isn't always loud. Sometimes it's found in the hush of the plains, the warmth of a stranger's smile, the stretch of skies so wide it humbles you. Kansas is a place to slow down, to remember, to reconnect, not just with nature, but with yourself. At the very center of the United States, where prairie winds meet red clay and distant memories echo through the plains, lies Oklahoma, a land of rugged contrast, rich culture, and enduring spirit. The name Oklahoma comes from two Choctaw words, Oklahoma, meaning people, and Humma, meaning red. The Red People, a powerful nod to the land's first stewards. This place, though shaped by hardship, refuses to be forgotten. In the 19th century, Oklahoma became a tragic symbol of broken promises, a destination for native tribes forcibly removed from their ancestral homes. Known then as Indian Territory, it was a place of exile, but also of resilience. Here, cultures collided and survived. Tribes like the Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, Chickasaw, and Seminole rebuilt their lives on this soil, establishing schools, governments, and traditions that still thrive today. Walk through Oklahoma and you'll see this legacy everywhere, from powwows that pulse with ancestral drum beats, to art galleries filled with native craft, to the quiet reverence of tribal lands that still whisper their stories. But Oklahoma is more than history. It's a living, breathing place, equal parts Southern hospitality and wild Western adventure. A crossroads where you can hear country Western ballads floating from a roadside honky-donk. Then drive a few miles and stumble upon ancient petroglyphs etched into stone. Route 66, the Mother Road of America, cuts across the state like a ribbon of nostalgia. Rusted neon signs, crumbling motels, and retro diners line its path, each one a time capsule of America's love affair with the open road. And beyond the pavement, Oklahoma blooms with natural beauty. With 33 state parks, its landscapes range from golden prairies to forested hills, from rocky canyons to glistening lakes. In the southeast, the Kiamishi Mountains cradle one of Oklahoma's most beloved treasures, Beaver's Bend State Park. Here, the forest breathes with life. Towering pines sway above mountain streams, and the Mountain Fork River winds through the woods, beckoning anglers and paddlers alike. Adjacent to the park is Broken Bow Lake, a vast, crystal-clear reservoir surrounded by cabins and wildlife. It's become a favorite for families, photographers, and those seeking quiet moments under star-strewn skies. As you journey north and east, the land softens into rolling hills and green meadows. You arrive in Tulsa, a city that surprises many. Once the oil capital of the world, Tulsa now pulses with creativity and charm. The city is home to two renowned art museums, full-time opera and ballet companies, and one of the finest collections of Art Deco architecture in America. Its skyline gleams with buildings that harken back to the Roaring '20s, a reminder of the wealth and vision once fueled by black gold. Stroll along the Arkansas River. You'll find urban parks, jazz festivals, sculpture gardens, and the heart of a community that embraces both its past and its future. And then there's Oklahoma City, often abbreviated simply to OKC, a city with frontier roots and a modern heartbeat. OKC is one of the largest cities by land area in the U.S., and it's big in personality too. The Stockyards District still hosts one of the world's largest cattle markets, echoing Oklahoma's cowboy legacy. But OKC isn't stuck in time. Sleek skyscrapers rise beside historic brick buildings. Restaurants blend traditional Southern flavors with bold, new cuisine. Local breweries hum with conversation. And the energy of reinvention is everywhere. Oil and gas still drive the economy. And just outside the city, oil rigs pump steadily from fields that have sustained Oklahoma for generations. The Capitol building itself is ringed by derricks, a symbol of the state's unbreakable bond with the energy that shaped it. Yet for all its industry and scale, Oklahoma City remains friendly, grounded, and welcoming. It's a place where neighbors say hello, and visitors are treated like locals. And that, perhaps, is Oklahoma's greatest strength. For all its complexity, the sorrows of the past, the pride of its people, the wildness of its land, it never loses its warmth. It's where you'll hear cowboy poetry at sunrise, taste fry bread at a tribal festival, and dance under stars at a summer rodeo. It's a land of freedom and folklore, of contradictions and continuity. Oklahoma isn't just in the middle of America. It is America, raw, real, and unforgettable. They say everything is bigger in Texas. But it's not just the size. It's the scale of emotion, the richness of culture, and the sheer sense of independence that make this land so unforgettable. In 1845, Texas officially became the 28th state in the Union, but the Lone Star State already had a long, complex story, one written in desert sands, in the shadows of missions, and along wild rivers that still shape its borders. Before joining the United States, Texas stood proudly as its own nation, the Republic of Texas, for nearly a decade. And even now, that spirit lingers. You can feel it in every town square, in every rodeo cheer, and in the unwavering pride of its people. Texas spans the heart of the American South Central Plains, second in size only to Alaska, but first in sheer personality. From bone-dry deserts and lush mountain forests to Gulf Coast beaches and endless fields of bluebonnets, this state contains multitudes. It's a land forged by extremes, of weather, of landscape, and of identity. Long before it flew a Lone Star, Texas was part of the Spanish Empire and later Mexico. That blend of culture still colors every corner, from adobe churches and Spanish missions to mariachi music that floats through its markets. And when it comes to nature, few places offer the kind of raw, cinematic drama that Big Bend National Park delivers. Tucked along the winding Rio Grande, this vast wilderness is where the desert meets the mountains, and silence stretches farther than the horizon. Visitors from around the world come here to hike its ridges, explore its hidden canyons, and drive scenic roads that feel like they belong in a Western film. Big Bend isn't just a park. It's a world apart. Yet the soul of Texas isn't only found in its open spaces. It pulses through its cities. In San Antonio, history runs deep. The Alamo, once a Spanish mission and the site of a legendary battle for independence, stands as a solemn reminder of the sacrifices that built the Texas identity. But beyond its historic walls, San Antonio thrives as a modern cultural gem. The river walk snakes through the city's heart, lined with cafes, galleries, and gardens, offering a tranquil escape beneath cypress trees and glowing lights. Just beyond, Brackenridge Park offers a vibrant retreat with trails, museums, and family adventures under the Texas sun. To the north, the Dallas, Fort Worth area blends cosmopolitan flair with old-school Texas grit, while Dallas dazzles with its skyline, shopping districts, and art scene. Fort Worth digs deeper into the state's cowboy roots. Nowhere is that clearer than the Fort Worth stockyards, where real cattle drives still take place twice daily, keeping alive traditions that go back generations. Here, the past doesn't feel preserved. It feels lived. And then there's the coast, more than 360 miles of shoreline stretching along the warm, breezy Gulf of Mexico. Among its many treasures, South Padre Island stands out. With 35 miles of golden sand, gentle surf, and swaying palms, South Padre is both a spring break hotspot and a peaceful family retreat, depending on when you arrive. Dolphin cruises, beach bonfires, and colorful sunsets draw visitors year-round. At the heart of it all is Austin, the capital city and the cultural crown jewel of Texas. Here, music flows like water. The city calls itself the live music capital of the world, and it wears that title with pride. But there's more to Austin than music. Food trucks, tech startups, natural springs, and vibrant street art all mix into one creative, unconventional community that dares to be different and encourages you to do the same. Texas is barbecue and brisket, country ballads and Tejano rhythms. It's dusty roads, booming cities, and towns that feel frozen in time. It's a mosaic of cultures, voices, and landscapes, stitched together by grit and grandeur. So whether you're looking for a quiet cabin in the hill country, a beachside escape, a city adventure, or a deep dive into history, Texas welcomes you with open skies and open arms. Because in Texas, you're not just visiting a state, you're stepping into a legend. The American West is more than a place. It's a feeling, a boundless, ever-changing dreamscape that stirs the soul of every wanderer. Across these 19 states, stories rise from red rock canyons, whisper through alpine forests, and echo across silent plains, waiting not just to be seen, but to be lived. Each trail, each town, each horizon holds a new chapter of discovery. This isn't just travel, it's transformation. So let your heart lead the way. Let wonder be your compass, because the adventure of a lifetime is already calling your name.